You're born in Manchester, 1824. The city is a living furnace of smoke, thick as soup air tasting of metal and coal. Your mother's hands are cracked from washing other people's linen. Your father's lungs wheeze like old bellows. They still believe foolishly that hard work will keep you safe. Your cradle isn't wood. It's a wicker basket set beside the loom. Threads hang above you like cobwebs of fate swaying whenever the factory floor trembles. The rhythm of the spinning wheels becomes your first lullaby, clack, hiss, spin. By the time you can walk, you already know the sound of hunger. Bread smells like Sundays, which means you rarely smell it. The neighbors lose children to fever, to dust, to the machines themselves. But the factories are always hiring. At 6, your father signs your name with an X. The overseer doesn't even look at you, only your arms thin enough to slip between gears. You don't cry when he takes your measure. You're proud at first. You think you're helping. The first morning, the world turns white with steam. The noise is a wall, a living creature that eats breath. You're told to crawl under the spinning frames to clean the lint. The air below smells of oil and blood. You learn to keep your hair cropped short, your fingers tucked in. A boy your size loses his hand before noon. No one stops the machines. Someone wipes the blood with a rag and work goes on. The overseer says, "That's what happens when you slow down." You don't ask questions after that. You just move faster. By the end of the week, your palms are blistered and your back hums with bruises. Still, your mother smiles when you bring home the coins, the same coins that bought her silence. You never get to choose what you'll be. You wake before the sun. The factory bell is your rooster, your god, your executioner. Its sound cuts through fog and dreams alike a metallic scream that means run. You dress in the dark, coarse shirt, torn trousers, no shoes. The floor outside glistens with frost. The walk to the mill feels endless, yet you know every cobblestone by heart. The streets smell of coal dust and boiled cabbage. 100 other children move with you, silent as ghosts. No one talks before dawn, breath is better saved for work. Inside the mill, warmth doesn't mean comfort. It means steam sweat and grease. The air is so thick you can taste it. Cotton fibers float like snowflakes catching in your throat. You cough until your ribs ache, but you learn to do it quietly. Noise draws attention, and attention hurts. Your hands become tools. You twist, pull thread. Every movement is a prayer for survival. The machines roar louder than thunder, and you start to hear their rhythm even when you sleep. Clack, hiss, whir. You could dance to it if your legs ever stopped shaking. The overseer watches from his platform like a hawk with a whip for a tail. He doesn't shout your name, you don't have one here. Your boy hand-lint rat. You flinch at the sound of boots behind you. You don't need to look. The sting on your back tells you enough. Days blend together. Meals come in tin pails, bread sometimes a bit of onion. You eat with greasy fingers standing beside the looms. There's no lunch break, only slower work when the foreman isn't looking. You start dreaming of the smell of soap, of being clean just once. After a month, you stop counting cuts. They're small but deep. Threads slice like knives, oil burns like acid. You learn to wrap your fingers in cloth scraps not because anyone cares, but because infection spreads faster than pity. At night, you collapse beside your mother, who now coughs too much to sleep. Her voice fades behind the hum, still echoing in your skull. When you close your eyes, you see spindles spinning behind them, endless white whirlpools sucking you back in. On Sundays, if the mill allows rest, you wash your shirt in the canal. The water is gray, slick with dye and ash. You stare at your reflection, barely recognizing it, the face of a child aged by soot. You think about school, about the letters you can't read. Then you laugh softly because reading doesn't buy bread. The other children change too. Some lose fingers, others lose hope. The smallest ones, the scavengers, crawl beneath the frames to clear lint. They whisper that the machines are alive, that they drink blood. You don't disagree. You've seen it happen. Your body hardens into routine. Pain becomes background noise, fear becomes a language. You measure time not in days, but in bruises healed. When the overseer nods at your speed, you feel something dangerous pride. That's how they win. Because once you're proud of endurance, you forget to hate the cage. And by then it's too late. By 12, you've stopped being a child. You're a component, fast, reliable, silent. The foreman says you're one of the best piecers on the floor. Your fingers deft enough to mend snapped threads while the frame still spins. You take that as praise, though you know it just means you've learned how not to bleed too loudly. The noise no longer terrifies you. It fills you, becomes your heartbeat. You can tell which loom is faltering by sound alone, a falter in rhythm, a cough in the machinery. You could almost love it if love weren't too expensive a feeling. Your body has adapted to the rhythm of iron and cotton. Your back curves forward, your shoulders knot like ropes. The calluses on your hands are thick as bark. When you lift a spool, the muscles in your arms move like machinery themselves. The overseer calls you a proper little worker. You smile without meaning to. The girls your age start spinning upstairs, their hair bound under kerchiefs, faces powdered white with dust. They cough blood into their sleeves and call it nothing. One dies every few weeks, fever they say, though you know the real fever burns in everyone's lungs. The factory doesn't stop. It never stops. Outside, Manchester is changing. More chimneys rise every month, blackening the sky into a permanent dusk. Children like you flood the mills cheaper, quieter, faster. The air tastes like industry. The river runs white with waste. People say it's progress. You wonder what they'd call it if they could smell it. You become quick enough to train others. Tiny, frightened newcomers stare at you as if you're already grown. You show them how to tie broken threads without losing skin, how to duck when belts whip loose, how to keep moving even when their hands shake. They thank you. You tell them not to. Gratitude doesn't last here, only speed does. At the end of the week, the overseer gives you a coin bonus. It's small but heavy in your palm. For a moment, pride flickers again, that dangerous warmth. You buy your mother a loaf of bread and some sugar, just enough to taste sweetness again. She cries, and you pretend not to notice. Night comes, and you lie awake, listening to the distant hum of the looms. The city itself feels mechanical, every heartbeat timed to the rhythm of profit. You imagine the machines turning even when no one's there, like restless gods too powerful to sleep. Once you dream, you're free. You're standing in a green field, barefoot, breathing air that doesn't hurt. Then the whistle blows, sharp, shrill, merciless, and the dream folds back into steam and shadow. You rise with the bell as always. Your body knows what to do before your mind catches up. You pull, twist, spin, mend, repeat. You've reached perfection, efficiency carved into bone. Congratulations, you've become exactly what the factory needed. A perfect machine made of flesh. You turn 15, though you wouldn't know it by the mirror. Your face has lost the softness of youth, replaced by lines carved from exhaustion. Your lungs whistle when you breathe. The doctor calls it mill cough, as if giving it a name makes it kinder. You keep working anyway because the rent collector doesn't care what your lungs are called. The mill changes before you do. New machines arrive, larger, faster, more precise. They need fewer hands like yours. The overseer gathers everyone and announces progress with a grin. You watch as metal replaces muscle, gears replace children. Some cheer. You don't. You already know what progress smells like: rust and unemployment. One morning, the new power looms start. Their thunder drowns out even the old noise. You stand beside them, suddenly clumsy. Your fingers are too slow, your instincts outdated. A younger boy, maybe 9, darts past you quick and fearless. The overseer pats his shoulder, then glances at you as though you've turned to dust. You're moved to cleaning duty, sweeping lint, oiling frames, fetching water. Less pay, longer hours. You tell yourself it's temporary. It isn't. Your mother grows sicker. The doctor says she should rest, but rest is for people with savings. You start taking double shifts. Your eyes sting from sleeplessness. You drop a spool one night and the overseer's whip finds your back again like an old friend. The pain feels almost nostalgic. Winter comes crueler than usual. The mill floor is cold enough to numb your feet. Children cough blood onto the planks and the overseers step around them. The smell of iron mixes with sickness. You wrap your hands in rags and keep moving. Stopping would mean thinking, and thinking hurts worse. Then one morning, a rumor new laws. Reformers from London talk about child welfare education, shorter hours. You don't believe in words anymore, but the masters do. They start hiring older men, paying slightly more for slightly fewer hands. You're told to leave early that day, and you understand what it really means. You walk home under a gray sky that smells of smoke and rain. The streets are full of children you used to know, all wandering with nowhere to go. Some join gangs. Some vanish into the workhouse. One girl you once worked beside is found floating in the canal, hair spread like silk. The newspaper calls her anonymous. You find a few days' work unloading coal at the docks. It's worse pay, heavier labor, but at least the air is real cold wet, not full of lint. Your hands tremble now, not from fear, but from weakness. You've grown too used to the rhythm of the looms. The silence feels unbearable. At night, you dream of the mill again, its ceaseless hum, the spinning white threads. You wake missing it, hating yourself for missing it. The factory had owned your body, but at least it gave your suffering a shape. Out here, pain has no purpose. Your mother dies in early spring. Her hands, once so cracked and strong, look peaceful in death. The factory doesn't notice. You bury her with money borrowed from a neighbor, then go back to the docks. Weeks later, you pass by your old mill. The windows are boarded up. A newer, bigger one has opened down the street, shining with glass and steam. You stand in the shadow of its chimney, invisible again. You realize the cruelest truth of all: you were never meant to last longer than the machines. The years blur after that. Work becomes patchwork, docks, brickworks, whatever keeps hunger from winning. You learn to lift with your legs, breathe shallowly, hide your cough when the foreman walks by. The body that once darted beneath looms now aches after a single sack of coal. Sometimes in the foggy dawn you pass the new mill gates and watch the children march inside, smaller, thinner, just like you once were. Their laughter sounds brittle. You almost shout a warning, but what would you say? Work hard, don't breathe too deeply. Remember to keep your fingers clear of the gears, none of it saves them. You walk on. The city itself has grown monstrous. Manchester is a kingdom of smoke. Red brick palaces vomiting soot into the sky. The river runs slower now, choked with the waste of progress. Even the rain tastes like iron. People talk of revolution, of rights of parliament. But you've stopped believing in words that start in other people's mouths. You live quietly in a room above a tavern. Sometimes the younger dockhands call you old man, though you're barely 30. You laugh a dry, rattling sound. In the evenings, you sit by the window and spin bits of thread between your fingers, a nervous habit you never outgrew. The thread always breaks. One night, the factory bell rings through the mist, the same pitch, the same metallic cry that once ruled your life. For a moment, your body remembers everything: the heat, the dust, the roar. You close your eyes and it's all still there. You can even smell it: the scorched oil, the cotton, the sweat. You almost miss it. You think about your mother, her cracked hands, her soft hum as she stitched shirts by candlelight. You think about the boy who lost his hand your first day, and the girl who drowned, and the thousands whose names were never written down. You realize your story is not unique. It never was. That's what makes it matter. You lie back on your cot listening to the city hum outside. The machines never stopped. They only changed shape. Somewhere, another child is learning the rhythm. Somewhere, another mother is praying her child survives another shift. You breathe out slowly, painfully, And imagine the air leaving your lungs drifting up through the rafters out into the fog, carrying a whisper. Remember us. Because history will call it the Industrial Revolution. It will speak of innovation, invention, prosperity. But it won't mention the lungs full of lint, the fingers left between gears, the lives spent fueling progress. You were born, property lived, function, and died forgotten, but not meaningless. If this story moved, you share it. Because every forgotten life deserves to be remembered. And if you want to feel history, not just Reddit, subscribe for the next story.